Hey guys, Coach Ron Kardashian. Hey, got my ear pods in here, so I think you can hear me a little bit better. I wanted to take out a couple seconds here to talk about a post that I posted the other day on 90 days of breakthrough. Ladies and gentlemen, within the last 72 hours, I personally experienced something nothing short of miraculous. I mean, this was an impossible situation. And it had to do with a gentleman that I just absolutely loved. I mean, about 10 years ago, I had a 15-year-old walk into my life and who was kind of down and out, and I just wanted to help him. No strings attached, became a mentor, and just wanted to be used as an instrument. To God be the glory for turning this young man's life around. But somehow, some way, he got angry and turned on me and became the subject of altered behaviors, which is a fancy word for saying he became a proponent of online slander. And I didn't really know about this until my attorney had called me, several months into this incident and said, Mr. Kardashian, you have been the subject of some deformations of character. He goes, we're not alarmed, but what would you like to do, sir? And I said, well, what do you mean, what would I like to do? And he said, I said, right at the minute, I said, well, take out the bazooka and blow them fools out of the water, but that's the coach in me I said, hold on, let me process this for a minute. He goes, well, we know your character. He goes, anybody who is making an impact is going to be talked about. And I said, well, I don't have any enemies. What's going on? Tell me. And he said, I'm not going to give you the feedback. We know your character. And he said, I just need to know if you'd like us to proceed. I guess now, as the law has evolved, you can actually be sued for online slander, deformations of character, and it's very, very disturbing to see how the cyberbullying world has escalated. I consult this in Fortune 100 companies and Fortune 500 companies with entrepreneurs. How do we best apply the reputations of our organizations and companies? I mean, now with things like Glassdoor, I even had a company of a gentleman I was coaching, and he said, Coach, they want to create fabrications on their list of reviews and falsify information. And I thought, people are doing things that they are going to deeply regret. Maybe not in this month, next year, but like this gentleman, here we are, 7 years later. I receive an email 72 hours ago by this online slanderer with a formal apology letter. And he had said, Coach, I want to apologize to you for saying some untruths that were not true on the internet, and I'd like to meet with you and have coffee. And while I was very apprehensive, because I always advise you must tread carefully amongst an enemy. You can't, you've got to be very delicate because people are volatile. But I felt in my heart it was the right thing to do. And incidentally, I told the attorney, I said, no. I said, we're not going to press any charges. I said, I want to do something a little unorthodox here, and I want to choose to forgive him. I want to choose to pray or bless my enemies. I said, no need to focus your attention on trying to put out a bunch of fires that will pull away or distract you from the real matters at hand. I have other things going on, and these simply were not the truth. So you don't have to fight things that aren't the truth. You just let them roll off your back like water off a duck's back. It's very difficult because he did print out some of the things. They put them in a file, and he had disclosed to me a few things very, very hurtful, very defaming, and it really did, hurt me. But I didn't let it get under my skin, and that's the key. I decided to pray for this person. And most of you know that I will get downloads from my own life. I post them online. But this 90 days of breakthrough, I wanted to personally do this video to encourage you, to let you know that there are peculiar, impossible, rare things that I want you to keep your faith out there for and expect them to heal and restore. One of my prayers was, God, please restore this relationship. After all, I really love this person. But there was no way for me to convey to him that I loved him other than to pray for him. That was the real test. And we had coffee not but 72 hours ago, and he said to me something very powerful. And I give this as a twofold message. One is a warning, and the other one is a form of encouragement. Because he had said, Coach, over the last 5 years, my life has slowly declined. And he said, the reason why I'm coming to you is because now I have a little girl who's almost a teenager, I think, maybe 10 or 11 years old. And he said, I don't want her to reap the same things. In essence, he was conveying, look, I need to clear the slate because she kind of had a run-in with cyberbullying, and I don't want to perpetuate this. In other words, there is a law of reciprocity. Some call it karma. Some call it the golden rule: do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Some call it sowing and reaping. But nonetheless, this is a principle. This is a precept. This is an edict of God Almighty when he says, do not be deceived. Don't let your mind think that this isn't happening. Whatever a person sows, that and that only will they reap. And ladies and gentlemen, he, sitting down with me having coffee, said, you know, the Bible also says that the murmurer and the slanderer will lose their whole inheritance. I have some notes right here that I want to tell you, because this is a very staggering and upsetting statistics that we don't understand the toxicity of our words. And as a behavioral expert, I'm constantly trying to trim and ascertain, detect, and diagnose altering of behaviors. And how does your private behavior affect your corporate life, your business life, your family life? And ladies and gentlemen, it affects everything. I often tell people, my clients and the people that I speak to, the answer sometimes is right under your nose. That if you're not reaping the life that you want, check what you're sowing or check what you're speaking. And sure enough, staggeringly enough, 75 to 90% of toxic words decrease, 75 to 98% increase risk of disease just by living in a toxic environment, which is your own. So I see a lot of these articles on Harvard Business Law, through neuroscience institutes, through a lot of the great leadership institutes of the world, trying to diagnose corporate cultures and human cultures. But there's a big culture right in your living room, right in your home. I'm in my wife's office here recording this, but even in our home, I have had to learn over the years on how to become a better husband. I wasn't a very good orator. I haven't always been the greatest guy for Tia, and that bothers me. And I realized that as I'm sitting there with him, I had the greatest power available within me rather than retaliation, and that was introspection or being open-minded. And above all, it led to me being forgiving and caring. In fact, I often tell people, when you've got one finger pointing at someone else, you've got three fingers pointing back at yourself. In this case, it was me. And I said to him, I'm sitting there thinking and watching him apologize, and I'm tripping out. This was impossible. You don't understand. I mean, you cannot alter human will. You can't, no matter what you do or how many letters you write or how much you try to counter. That's why I just told the attorneys, silence. Let me do my thing. Let me go low. If you think about the position of prayer, you have to get on your knees. You have to bow down to an institution or a system or a knowledge that's higher than yourself. It's the complete fullness of humility to say, please help me. And that's really what I did. And I blessed him. And as we're sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, how can I become a better person? How can I learn from this? Right? I've got the three fingers pointing back at me, and I'm identifying with doing things in my life that I regretted. I mean, I don't speak ill of anybody. I try not to, at least. You know, if it's immediately correct, I apologize. But I don't purposely slander, or you got to be careful how much you're chiming in online. You know, not everybody needs to know your personal life, your opinions, and all of these things. I'm not saying that it's not good to do that. I'm just saying we better exercise caution here, because this man had reaped the same thing in his life that he was giving. And I thought, gosh, what we omit on the outside is the toxicity that we get on the inside from a behavioral standpoint. Now, here's what's staggering is the rate of suicide has quadrupled since 1970s with the use of online media. This is from a behavioral standpoint. 1 in 6 people right now are bullied online. If you've ever been lied about, hated on, spoken ill against, bullied, cyberbullying, any of that era, this is the way it is at the time. And I'd like to bring in a little bit of a blessing to let you know that there's a higher way to do things. It works, and it works well. And let me explain it. I don't want to be too long, but I wanted to have a deeper discussion rather than just a 2-minute video. New studies have shown that people are interested in in-depth conversations. So it's kind of a little commercial into me coaching, some of my clients, how we diagnose things that enhance business. Because remember, what you orientate is what you celebrate. I mean, how you orientate the vision or your brand or your passion is the wealth and the business that you generate. So becoming a master speaker and being able to orientate truth with sincerity and good intention is actually very transformative in the outside world. I don't want to get too deep, but several years ago, I had this very astute businessman and a pastor let me know that he was horrendously harassed, cyberbullied, and there were several deformations spoken against him. This man, I guess, went on the radio and spoke ill against him. And I remember him sharing the story with me years ago. I remember this as I was walking through this issue. I have never been through this in my life, you guys. I think that, I try to live with a deep heart of respect towards mankind. There was a time I wasn't like this, so I understood. My before Tia days, BT days, really before Christ, before I really started walking in biblical truth rather than just talking about them. Do right unto your neighbor as much as it hurts. I mean, take the higher road. Martin Luther King, I just posted the other day, now is the right time to do the right thing. Make it right, you know what I mean? And he said to me, Ron, the guy slandered me for 14 years. He said, I received a phone call one day, and it was this gentleman. He goes, I was very taken off guard, but the man said, can you please come and see me? I would like to apologize to you. And my friend, as he was apprehensive, ended up going to a hospital. The man was in a hospital, and he had been diagnosed with a terminal tumor for over 10 years. And he looked at my friend, this businessman and pastor, and said, I should have never spoken ill of you. And he said, I feel like I made myself sick by the toxicity I omitted. And we both just, what do you say except, I forgive you, it's all right. You're a human being. There's a life. We all make mistakes. And ladies and gentlemen, the warning is that there are consequences to our actions. Your coach is living it. I wondered why I was coming down with a horrible cough. Well, I was a smoker for years. I counseled someone the other day. This was a couple years ago, but I was looking at his testimony the other day. He had come down with stage 4 colon cancer, middle-aged man. I said, what was it, sir? He said, I chose to eat this way. I chose to drink heavy, I chose, and he said, now I eat all organic. He changed, and then he was coming in for some therapeutic remediation and how we incorporated weight training and good thinking and prayer, and man, his stage 4, it was prostate cancer, went into remission. But the consequence was in lieu of his actions. And I want to just encourage you today that things can change on a dime with humility of spirit, with prayer, I pray for my businesses. I pray for my companies. I want God's blessing on my life. And I don't want to have anything distract from that. Does that make sense? That's why I want to give you these 30-second rules of regulation, if you will. And this one I'm calling the business of forgiveness. I looked at this young guy who was still young. I'm 10 years older than him, and seeing him grow up and how mature he is. And I just said, I am so thankful that you're here. And I love you. I've always loved him. It never changed, but how do you convey that to somebody? Time, ladies and gentlemen, time and maturity is an unbelievable remedy for healing and success. You say, well, it's been 30 years, coach. Make a 30-second decision that you're not going to give up. Make a 30-second prayer. Make a list in 30 seconds and write down what I will achieve this year. What will happen in my life? And instead of using those words to invade or hurt another human being, to create toxicity in your own life, your marriage, your business, the world. I mean, when you put things on the web, you are now influencing the world. And I had a real wake-up call, and one of the biggest blessings of my life this last 72 hours, watching this man humbly apologize, which actually made me a better coach, a better husband, a better man, a better father. And I just want to encourage you to not give up. I'm Coach Ron Kardashian. This is 30 Second Solution on the business of forgiveness.